Welcome back, folks. This is the Ray Lucia Show. Today, we're discussing some alternative retirement strategies. I can't get into all of them, but we started out with real estate, as we've discussed many times before, and having a fully paid for rental property or two or three like Mr. Stewart, and pocketing that cash flow every single month. Pretty awesome. We've discussed reverse mortgages and how they can play a role in retirement planning. I just finished up with defined benefit / cash balance plans for self-employeds. And if you're self-employed, you want to learn about this because they can be significantly better than 401ks. Even if you have employees, but if the employees are younger and you're older and your salary is significantly higher, the benefits can be skewed substantially in favor of the owner. And no, that's not immoral. You worked your butt off to create the business. And I now digress to something that I've written about, I've studied personally, and I know a little bit about, but I don't know nearly as much as my guest who's on the phone line, Mr. Gene Pastula, certified financial planner, and that is utilizing a life insurance policy as an alternative retirement vehicle. Gene, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, my friend?
Well, I'm doing fine. I'm running a little late today, so...
it's next week that you fall back. Next week, you fall back, okay?
Yes.
All right.
Got it now.
I want to talk about this because, as you know, I've written on this subject extensively. I know you have as well. For certain individuals, a life insurance policy, whether it be whole life or index universal life or variable life, can be used effectively to create tax-free income in retirement. Explain how that works.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is if you have a choice of tax-free, tax-deferred, or taxable, and take it for somebody who is already in an older aged situation where not only am I starting to utilize some of the money that I've accumulated for income, but I have a certain amount of it in qualified plans, IRAs and that type of thing, which is any money that comes out is taxed. And of course, in real estate and what have you, depending on the circumstances that you have, you're looking at taxable income, and it's really nice to have a source of income in retirement that is tax-free, that you can take and use tax-free, or you can leave it alone and not have to pay taxes on it. And a life insurance policy, particularly the modern life insurance policies that are actually designed for this purpose, have a very impressive result to show a client who is in the stages of accumulating money. This isn't something that somebody can use when they're already needing to draw money from from their accounts. Annuities do have a certain tax benefit to do that, and that's worth looking at, and we've talked about that before. But the cash value accounts of these life insurance policies that are available today are capable of earning and accumulating money at annual interest rates of anywhere from 4 to 12%, and that percentage is based on not an investment in the market, but they are calculated based on the results each year of an index, typically the Standard & Poor's. So the result is that one can set up an insurance policy to save and accumulate money in. Typically, you should start somewhere in your before you're in your middle 50s is best, but you could accumulate money in the cash value of an insurance policy, and it will grow without taxes. And if set up properly, it'll accumulate at rates of return that are extremely competitive with anything else that people do in their IRAs and their Roths and all the rest. They when you sit and look at the results that they get, and compare that with what they get in their, in the more traditional, well-known approaches using 401ks and IRAs, they're accumulating at easily the same level as those kinds of accounts are. But there's no tax, obviously, as it accumulates. And then when you start to retire, you can withdraw money from those without tax, and it can be calculated so that it is, well into your late 80s or 90s. You can receive tax-free income to live on. You can take it or not, as opposed to a qualified plan, which at age 71 and a half, you must start taking at least a minimum required distribution, which, whether you need it or not, you have to take it in. You incur a tax bill.
Let me share with it, because what I did is I had your office run me an illustration of one of these for a 39-year-old female who's doing quite well in her business. And let me just go through the numbers, because she has no retirement plan, but she's making several, $200,000-$300,000 per year. And she figures she'll make that for the next 7 or 8 years. And then she's either going to sell the company or slow down or whatever. So I said, well, how much could you afford to put away for the next 7 years? She said $100,000. Whoa! So I just for kicks and giggles, I ran this. So let me just go through this with everybody so that you, and you can divide by 10 and it'd be $10,000. But check this out, Gene, and you can explain it. $100,000 in for the first 7 years, nothing thereafter. She's 39 years old. At 54 in the 15th year, she's put in $700,000. She takes all $700,000 that she put in back out. So she retires early, say. She's got a $700,000 nest egg, the money that she had put in, leaving just the earnings to grow. When she is 64 years old, she gets to take an income out of about $108,000 tax-free until she's like 92. Now, the assumptions that I plugged in: 0% return for the first 2 years, 6.5%. You said between 4 and 12. I used about 6 until she actually reached retirement age, and then I knocked it down to like 5 or 5.5, can't remember, to make it as realistic as possible. That is pretty darn amazing for a female 39, assuming she can actually afford to do that. And this is one of those fine companies that will remain nameless that your firm represents. Pretty interesting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and what you should notice about it, what the listeners should notice about it, is the flexibility. That, I mean, you I don't know where you got that design, but it can be anything. That the interesting thing is that when you go into qualified plans like IRAs and 401ks and what have you, there's a lot of rules and restrictions of what you can and can't do, and the penalties for early withdrawal and the tax penalties and all the rest of the stuff. In these plans, they're basically under your total control. Obviously, the contracts, the insurance companies' contracts are set up, and there's certain parameters that allow this to happen. But for the most part, I mean, you can stop. You can take money out before you are ready to retire, because pay for college education of your child or something. I mean, you can do a lot of things with this, and as you're accumulating, going from 30, would you say 39? 39
years old. Listen, Gino, yeah. We've got to run. We're running out of time. Where I got the design, I will explain to you the next time I see you. because there was a method to the madness, but you're not here. And I'm going to tell everybody when we come back from the break how I came up with that very unique design. And then I'll clue in Mr. Pastula. If you want to learn about this, go to safemoneymonitor.com. Safemoneymonitor.com, 800-809-6783. It's pretty amazing. Thank you, Gino. We'll be back. Don't go away. It's the Ray Lucia Show.